screen right now?
I can see it. Yep, we can see
Okay,
your
great.
PowerPoint view.
Okay. Well, first of all, I wanted to say thank you very much, Jennifer, for inviting me to present or talk about the program. I joke I can talk about it for hours and hours, so I'll try to keep it to 25 minutes. And also, I want to say thank you because I don't know if the people involved here with this presentation tonight realize Jennifer, along with some other people, were really the core volunteers that helped create this program. It was a long 3 years to do it, which I'll talk about, but Jennifer was right there for front and center. Um, and then also, before we get into the details here, I wanted to introduce the newest member of the ASHA Assistant Certification team, Emma Crutchfield, who should be somewhere in there and all the people, whatever. She is our new manager of membership and affiliate communications, and she will be starting on Monday. She is experienced ASHA, but she's moving into a new role, and I look forward to tag teaming or partners in crime for this program. So just for myself, as I said, my name is Lisa Wolf. I am the manager of the Assistant Certification Program. I've been involved in certification at ASHA since 2016 and have been at ASHA since 2014. Originally, I moved into the certification department and was doing the regular CCC applications. And when the opportunity for this position came up in the development of the program, I jumped right over and put my name in line for that. And it's been a really great 3 years. So I wanted to give a brief overview. I wanted to talk about the eligibility requirements, and then I did a sort of an FAQ of all the questions that people generally ask us. And I certainly encourage, if we miss something or it's not clear, please, we want to answer your questions. We want to make this transparent to you and make the process as easy as possible. So where are we today with ASHA assistance? Believe it or not, ASHA has been providing support and guidance for assistance as far back as 1967, when ASHA issued its first position statement about the use of support personnel. A lot of things happened between 1967 and 2011, but one of the key things that happened then was ASHA launched what was the Associates Program, which some of you may have been involved with. It was an affiliation that was available to assistants without the certification component. That program grew over the years, and in 2016, the board of directors at ASHA, which is your peers in the field, completed a feasibility study, and they asked a lot of questions about, well, should we think about writing recommendations about standards for education and experience for assistants? And one of the questions they asked was, what do you feel about a credential for assistants? And there was overwhelming support that the SLPs and audiologists that were surveyed thought that it was a good idea. So the board of directors created the assistant certification program in 2017. They approved it, and since 2018, up through 2020, we've spent hundreds and hundreds of hours with, I think I counted up over 100 volunteers that were involved in creating this program. And you think, oh, we'll just start a certification, but it really is a long process, and it was a great process to learn for myself. It started out with, well, what are the eligibility education requirements? What's required? We had to write standards for certification. The Board of Ethics wrote a code of conduct for assistants. We had to write the exam. We had to bring people in to vet the questions, determine what was the passing score. This was all done by volunteers.
I've never. Usually you hit the link, it opens up the app or the window, and then.
Did I hear something? Okay. So I'll continue on. I just got some conversation going on. In December of 2020, after all that hard work, we launched the first assistant certification application. And by the end of the year, we had already certified several SLPAs and audiology assistants. So a lot of people ask the question about, what's the value of assistant certification? There are a lot, and it works. I always say when somebody says, should I be ASHA certified? I would say, well, it has to determine what works best for you personally and what works best for you professionally. But it does provide an opportunity to be recognized for your contribution to the profession. It's a response to the demand for services, and as we all well know, there is a shortage of service providers. It defines and enhances the roles, responsibilities of an assistant. Hopefully we'll achieve greater uniformity with state regulations and educational programs. It definitely identifies qualified assistants for employment. You've gone and done something additional to enhance your skills and abilities by passing the national exam, which is easily identified to employers. And hopefully, it would reduce the training time for assistants that are new on the job. So just before I say anything more is, just so you know, I know we're talking mainly about SLPAs. We also have an audiology assistant certification, but I'm not going to really talk about that right now, but wanted to mention that is available. So there are 3 education pathways that are available to be eligible for ASHA certification. That's the starting point. Determine what your education is. And the first one is the completion of a 2-year SLPA associate's degree from an accredited university, such as Mitchell Tech or any of the other ones that are out there. The second option is you have a bachelor's degree in communication sciences and disorders, and then you have one additional requirement about completing ASHA's online education modules, or the academic equivalent of that. And I'll talk about that part a little bit further on in the FAQ section. The third option is I'm not a communication sciences associate's or bachelor's program. I have a degree in maybe early childhood education, but I'm really fascinated by speech. I'd like to get into the area. So you have the option of creating, you have to have a college degree, and then you must complete either an SLPA certificate program or academic coursework such as a bridge or a leveling program that covers the areas listed in this slide. And this pathway also needs to complete the online education modules. And then in addition to it, everyone who is applying for certification must complete a 1-hour course in ethics, universal safety, and patient confidentiality. These can be done through a variety of sources, and I'll give some examples a little bit further on. And in addition, there is the minimum of 100 hours of clinical work as an SLPA, say as on-the-job experience, or an SLPA student practicum. And it's under the supervision of an ASHA certified SLP and who meets the 2020 supervision standards. So this is my big questions, as I said, that everybody is asked when they want to know about the program. So am I required to be ASHA certified? No. ASHA certification is a voluntary optional credential at the national level. If you're currently working as an SLPA, you have your appropriate licensure or registration, or even some states call it certification. It doesn't affect your ability to work as an SLPA. And then people ask me, well, how much does it cost? So the initial application fee is $249. It includes the exam fee and 1 year of affiliation with ASHA. And that's all the benefits that you can have. You get the magazine, access to online journals, the ASHA community, a whole slew of benefits. And then every year you will pay an annual renewal fee of $125. And then another big question is, well, how can I meet these 3 1-hour prerequisite courses in ethics, universal safety, and patient confidentiality? My first thing is, if you're working as an SLPA, or even in some of the programs are building this into, you can do in-service employee training. Annual training that you do when you go back to school very well may cover these areas. And we have a verification of attendance form that's available for your HR person to fill out. Any of the usual professional development providers are fine. It does not have to be from ASHA. It does not have to be an ASHA approved provider. We've had a lot of people use outside sources to meet the requirement. And as long as it's the appropriate content, it's good to go. The one thing you need to know is that the certificate of completion does need to include your name, the course title, and the date you completed it, because there is a timeline that you must do it no more than 2 years prior to submitting an application, and that the course covers 1 hour in length. We also have people ask, well, I have a half hour. We will accept 2 half-hour courses to meet a requirement. So this is one question too, is about the clinical hours requirement. If you're a student, you're doing your practicum, finishing it up like Jennifer's students just did recently, and you can use that. It's valid for 5 years. If you've been working as an assistant for a while and you never did an official student practicum, or it's more than 5 years old, you can use your current or even a former ASHA certified supervisor. The one important thing is observation hours do not count towards the 100 hours. I'd like to say it's the knee-to-knee activity that you have providing therapy with your students or your patients like that. And then people also ask us, well, do I have to give any forms to ASHA? How do I do it? I don't have my paperwork. Actually, it's all done online. We have an online application, and one of the things that you'll do is identify your supervisor. When you submit submit your application, your supervisor gets an automatic email from ASHA to say, oh, Jennifer applied for ASHA's assistant certification. Please log into your ASHA account and confirm that the hours were completed under your supervision. It's pretty easy. As I said, you don't have to send us any paperwork for the hours. And an important thing is, if you've been working as an assistant for a while, you don't have to start over, okay? You would say, if you wanted to apply today, you would just pick a time period, a start and end date where you worked for 100 hours, so you don't have to start counting over again. And then the one important thing is any hours that you want to use after January 1st of 2021, your supervisor not only must be ASHA certified, but they need to meet a requirement for supervision that went into effect in 2020. And your supervisor knows about this requirement. This is something that's been around for the last few years. They need to have completed at least 2 hours of supervision, professional development, have been certified for at least 9 months. So maybe their account isn't updated, but it shouldn't be an issue or anything like that. So about the online education modules. Remember I mentioned that they were required for Pathway 2 and Pathway 3, which was the Bachelor's in Communication Sciences or a non-communication sciences degree. People ask, well, why would I have to do this? What it is, it's a 3-hour module available in the ASHA store. And what it is it's basic information about the roles, the responsibility, the scope of practice about being an SLPA. And the reason that is done is because if you are completing or have completed a 2-year associate's program, you cover this information in your academic coursework. But if you have a bachelor's degree in communication sciences, that wasn't necessarily something that was covered in your academic courses, because a lot of bachelor's programs are gearing you towards graduate school. So this creates that consistent standard that we need to have in accreditation of our certification so that everybody has met the same standards.
Lisa,
yes?
There was a question or a hand raised from Susan Moore, so I don't know if she still has that question, maybe.
Can you read it? I can't see it.
So she just raised her hand. So Susan, if you want to unmute, if you still have your question.
Sorry, go ahead. I lowered it. I think it was kind of answered. I just wanted to make sure that if students had it in coursework, they could use their syllabus to document that they had the confidentiality or the health and safety module, that they can use coursework to, or as you're saying now, for the scope of practice, ethics, etc., because we cover all of that.
Correct, right. In fact, a lot of the programs, what we're doing is when people apply, we will look at the syllabus, we'll talk to the program director just to make sure, and then what we've been doing is building sort of like a library that we know, I'm picking on Jennifer, Mitchell Tech covers those 3 prerequisites. In this particular course, we have a syllabus on file, and then as part of the application, they would put in that course code and course title, and then if we have it on file, we'll just waive it. If we have a question, we may ask the applicant for a syllabus to confirm that. That is the same for the 3 prerequisites. And a lot of times the online education modules are waived if there is a certificate program. For example, in California, if you have a bachelor's degree in communication sciences, you go back for 1 semester and basically, and I'm sort of paraphrasing it, an intro to SLPA 10-hour course, as well as the practicum hours necessary for California licensure. We've spoken with many of the programs there. It's the equivalent of the online modules, so we will accept that by verifying on the transcripts that that course has been completed. Okay? I don't want anybody to register for the modules if they think that they have something that would be the equivalent. We're happy to kind of give it a look-see up front and see if we can waive it for you. We don't want anybody to repeat anything.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so then here's a big question is, surprisingly, a lot of people ask a lot of questions about the exam. They have test anxiety, but Jennifer, you were involved in this whole process, so you can attest that it's a very fair test. It's an elementary or an entry-level exam for SLPAs, and your peers, your assistants that helped us with this, helped us determine what was the appropriate questions for that. So basically, how do you get to this point when you get to the exam? So in order to submit an application for assistant certification, you have to meet all the eligibility requirements up front. You know, the prerequisites, the modules if required, we'll need your transcripts, you'll need to have completed the clinical hours. And then you submit all of that, and it's reviewed by one of my colleagues or myself, and we say, yep, good to go, looks great. Then we send you an email, basically says, here's your information about how to register for the exam. Once you're approved, you have 365 days to register and take the exam. You can take it up to 3 times in that 1-year period, and there is retake fees after the first one, if you need to. The exam itself is 100 multiple choice questions, and the exam blueprint, which we have on the website. And it is basically everything that is on that exam. The exam itself is available. You have a 2-hour window to complete it. And people say, do you have a study guide? Well, not yet, because study guides are basically based on old exam forms. Since this is a brand new certification, we have a limited number of exams. So what we say is, using the exam blueprint that's on the website, the resource listing that was developed by our volunteers, and we have a small set of practice questions. It's pretty straightforward. And then the other question that people always ask is, well, where do I go to take this exam? It is at the Prometric testing centers, which is the same testing centers that are used for many of like the praxis exams and many of the state licensing things that are needed. And we also, because of COVID, we now have an online option via remote proctoring, that if you don't want to travel to a testing center or you don't live convenient to one, it's available for you as an option. Last question is, okay, so now I'm certified, this is great. How do I maintain my certification? Well, as I mentioned before, you would pay your annual renewal fee just as the audiologists and SLPs do. And then we're doing something different this time with professional development. We're kind of on the cutting edge of this, or sort of moving in. You're going to be, instead of doing, 10 hours of professional development every year or every 2 years, at ASHA, you would be assigned to a 3-year maintenance interval, which I know doesn't necessarily match up with what your state requirements are, but that's just, ASHA's got 3 years. And during the 3rd year, you will go into your ASHA account and complete what is called a Maintenance of Certification Assessment. We call it a MOCA. And what it is, it's we haven't started developing it yet, so I'm always looking for volunteers if people are interested in getting involved in that. But it'll be a self-paced module that you can complete over time. There's no exam per se. I envision it as you'll go through material, you'll answer some questions. If you don't get the right answer, it'll say, hey, want to go take a look at this section of the ASHA website, and then come back and answer a question, in a different format on that area. There's no charge for the MOCA. It's part of your renewal fees, so there's no additional fee for that. And as I said, sort of how we're envisioning it to pan out once we start working on it later this year. So I realize I gave you a ton of information in a very short period of time. But one, I'm always welcome anyone to call or email with questions. You can look for more information on our website, the ASHAassistance.org. It's a site specifically for the assistant certification. If you click on the How to Get Certified section, the first thing you'll see is a step-by-step guide, which is pretty much what I just walked through. And again, absolutely welcome to email me with any questions that you have. And with that, I think I've covered pretty much everything that I wanted to talk about, so I look forward to hearing from you after Molly's done talking.
Awesome. So we'll let you maybe stop your share, and then as Molly kind of gets ready to chat with us, if you've looked at the chat, there have been some links that have been posted in there. So there's a link to the ASHA Assistance Certification Benefits flyer, and then we put together a list of different resources related to ASHA certification for assistants. Emma put in a link to the ASHA website with the modules that Lisa talked about. And then I added a link to the Prometric site, which is also in the resources document that we have there. And then Lisa, question came in as I was talking there. Do you think this is eventually going to be mandatory, with 2 question marks? So.
Okay. That is not, ASHA doesn't advocate that it be mandatory, okay? Even for SLPs and audiologists, believe it or not, ASHA certification is still voluntary. Employers may want it, and private payers may want that, but ASHA, what our goal with this certification, in addition to giving you an opportunity to be recognized for, the valuable part of what you do, is creating a consistent standard among the states. The thing is, there's 29 states that regulate assistance in some form or fashions, where they say what your education needs to be, what your experience and everything is. There's also states that don't have assistance. If you live in New York or New Jersey, there's no mention of assistance or I should say SLPAs in their licensing laws. And then there's other states that are very prescriptive. For example, California has probably and Texas and Florida, they have the most detailed regulations about being assistants. And the difference is, in California, licensure is based on a 2-year SLPA degree. Texas and Florida, for example, you must have a bachelor's degree in communication sciences or a bachelor's degree and additional coursework. So what we would like in a perfect world is that the state licensing regulations look at our standards for certification and sort of incorporate that into how they write their licensing regulations to create a consistency for, if you wanted to move from one state to another or whatever, however it be, is that it would be easier for you as an assistant. Any other questions on that?
No.
Okay.
Makes sense. Oh yeah. Okay. All right, Molly. Thank you for joining. I'm muted. Molly graduated from Mitchell Tech's on-campus speech language pathology assistant program, I believe in 2015. Is that right?
Correct.
And she is the first SLPA in South Dakota who went through the ASHA certification process. So yeah, just tell us about your experience, Molly.
So I'm Molly English. I am a speech therapy assistant in the Mulbridge Pollock School District. And I want to thank Jennifer and Lisa and Deb for all of your help through all of this certification process and taking the test and becoming certified. So when it came out about maybe 2, maybe even 3 years ago that ASHA was going to start certifying speech therapy assistants, I was super interested. I come from a kind of got to spend money to make money. You kind of got to, what you put in, you get out of it type work ethic and thinking. So it was just something that I was really interested in. But I was scared because, okay, they opened it up in December and it said you had to be within 5 years, have all this coursework. Well, I graduated college 5 years ago. So I'm like, hey, I got to get, if I'm doing this, I got to get it done because that 5 years is coming up. Between all the processes and probably tons of emails with Lisa, that especially that 100 hours, I was like, I was out of my time frame. So, I had lots of, and this was one of my biggest concerns, like, I'm out of my time frame now. What do I do? I have to now start from square one. Well, I just got a new supervisor this year, so that helped a lot. We started off with the new supervision hours and everything. So that was super easy. The application was super easy. Over Christmas break, I was able to take all of the prerequisite courses. So I was able to apply. I'm one of those huge test anxiety people, and especially when there's nothing to study from, what do I do? So I bought like one of the newest models of the book, just kind of for resources to look at and more help me out even in my job today, and kind of studied that and everything. And I went into the test. It was Valentine's Day. And luckily for COVID, I was able to stay home and take it. The closest testing place is 100 miles away. So I was able to take it. I went to my office at school, cleared everything off in my room because you have to have an empty room. And I was able to take the test. I kind of went into the test going, it's new. I get what I get. I'm going to take it again. That's kind of how I went into with it. So I took the test, and as soon as the test, I submitted it. I was writing down questions like, okay, I got to go back and look at this stuff. I right away, I emailed Jennifer and Deb asking questions like, okay, this was one of the questions. This is how I answered it. Is that right? But it comes out I passed it the first time around. Was super, super excited, very proud to be a certified member of the state of ASHA and of the state. South Dakota and ASHA do a wonderful job of having almost similarities. That's one of the great things, reading at that through the application. Well, you need this and this. Well, some of the other states, you don't even have to have a 2-year associate's degree. So it was really nice that ASHA and the South Dakota really are at an equal playing field and everything like that. So that's kind of been my experience. Actually, now that I'm certified, we're kind of working with the school district. I might possibly get a pay increase because of that. So that is awesome. What questions do you have for me?
So Molly, I don't have to take the test, but I am curious, how long did it take you to take the test?
I was done with the test in like 40 minutes. Some of the resources I studied for the test was the blueprint. Knowing your scope of practice inside out, backwards, upside down helps a lot. That was the main thing. There were questions that I had to stop and think, okay, I know what they're trying to trick me here, like every test, but you know, if you stop and think. So the blueprint was the main thing, and the scope of practice. That was the biggest thing that I studied from and that helped me the most.
We have lots of time left here. So other questions, either for Lisa or for Molly, or there might be people on here too who also have taken the certification exam and become certified. And so if you guys have, tips or suggestions, you're welcome to offer those too. I think one thing that, and I know Lisa said it, is, certification through ASHA is voluntary, and your state licensure or certification or registration obviously is what you have to do. And so, some states are very similar with those and some states are very different. It's just really important to know what you need to do and what you can do. And then I see Nicole, you have your hand raised, so go ahead.
Hi, how are you doing? Thank you so much for doing this.
You bet.
My biggest concern, I mean, I am going to take this unregistered. I've just kind of been dragging my feet. However, my biggest concern about taking this exam and getting the certification is I was hoping that there would be some way to get outside of, under the umbrella of being a paraprofessional. And I'm a little concerned because it seems a lot of the language that is used continues to use SLPAs as a para. And that greatly affects my pay. It affects the way I do my job, how the respect I get from my coworkers, from other paras. It's confusing because I'm asking them for help, but they're like, why are you telling me what to do? So, my question, I guess, is at some point, will that be a possibility to try and separate us from the paraprofessional role, I guess, or I don't even know what classification, maybe that's the word I'm looking for.
I think it varies from school district to school district. My school district treats me as I am a certified staff, not classified. That's huge. And now another school district, when I interviewed and has looked, they were going to treat me the same way. So hopefully that seeing this, it'll help.
Yeah, I'm hoping. I'm hoping that the term in general of actually calling us paraprofessionals disappears, because I think in order for as SLPAs to be able to gain the respect that we need, that needs to go away.
Exactly.
And I'm just hoping that this extra certification will do that, and we'll have the support of ASHA for that specific reason, I guess you could say.
Nicole, this is Emma. I'm probably for Lisa. Hi. Thanks for having me, guys. So I'm the manager of, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. My new title starts on Monday, so I haven't memorized it yet, but I am the manager of member and affiliate communications. But the biggest part of my job is the assistance program. And so the reason that I actually was brought on was to kind of work with Lisa and with ASHA membership to kind of address those concerns like you were just mentioning, and figure out ways that we can, take this label off and, get you guys the respect that you deserve and all the resources that you need. So if anybody has any suggestions, I would love to hear them. But we are working towards that. I'm really excited to help you all with that.
Awesome. Great. That's great to hear. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Lisa, do you have something to add?
Yeah, there's one thing is I wanted to clarify one thing. when Molly was talking about that 5-year window, okay, it's not your academic courses, okay? If you have your degree, you're good, okay? There's no time limit on that, in that. It's the practicum hours. If you want to use what you completed at Mitchell Tech or, you know, Loma Linda or any of the other options that are available out there with practicums, that's the 5-year period. But remember, if you're past your practicum and it's too old, that's okay. If you're working as an SLPA right now and you have an ASHA supervisor, you can use current hours, okay? So don't worry about that. That's not going to disqualify you from applying. The other key thing is, I know we have a lot of dates in there, is the prerequisites. Now those have a 2-year time frame, okay? But the academic courses, unless you wanted to use, like Jennifer, you said you include those in your courses, we would ask you just to maybe redo them, but that's not over. But you don't have to go back and get any academic courses over again. And then I think Lucinda asked that, we'll take the courses and count the hours again. That sort of is, no, you don't have to. If you're working currently, you can use your supervisor. And then I think somebody said their supervisor isn't ASHA certified. Unfortunately, the hours must be under the supervision of somebody that holds the CCC. So if your supervisor isn't, unfortunately, that would be an issue. Is there any other questions that we missed?
So there were some people with hands raised. I know Sue Kearney and Tina and Christina Barton. So maybe Sue, can we start with you?
Hi. I just have a point of clarification. At one of the meetings that I attended, and we were talking about the verification of clinical hours, it was suggested at that time that the SLP supervisors should sign the clinical hours that were achieved, so that that signature was required. But from what you were saying, you just send them an email to verify that they did supervise those hours. So I'm a little confused from the conversation we had prior into what you're saying tonight. Does that make sense?
Maybe I didn't say this. It's okay. The process is all online. There's no actual, we will sign like a digital signature. So I guess that's it. But because the applicant is under the code of conduct and the SLP is under the ASHA code of ethics, it's the honor system. So there's no quote signature needed or any actual physical paperwork. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think I misunderstood what we talked about at one of our previous meetings. So thank you for that clarification.
Okay, great. No, we want to be clear.
Great. Okay. Christina, I saw you pop up. Do you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Sure. Hi, ladies. Thank you. For Molly, how long before you knew you passed the exam?
Well, I kind of got anxious and emailed Lisa, but it within the week, you know.
Okay. So they just send you a notification?
Yes.
That's me.
And Lisa, you're wonderful with answering questions, by the way. Thank you very much.
No,
Yes.
I understand. Just so you understand, is the way it is we get the exam scores from the testing vendor about every 48 hours. And what we do is we look at the scores. I do happy dances a lot. I'm very happy to do that. I'm seriously, it's the most stressful part of my day. And I want to get that out to you as soon as possible. If I said I would do it the next day, then if I miss a day or I'm out and my colleagues aren't quite as anal retentive as I, or whatever, but my goal is to do it within a week. But we've really been trying to do it within 24, 48 hours because we know you guys are waiting for it.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
And then, I navigated away from that thing. Sorry. So, Sue, I think you're taking care of Tina. You have your hand up.
Okay, is it my turn? My question is, and I got on late because I was seeing a police and I apologize, but what is the benefits of doing this? What can I use for school districts and my SLPAs as a benefit to encourage them to get certified?
Okay, we have some resources that we'd be happy to share about the benefits of certification. So if you want to email me, I can send you the information. And then Emma and I will be working on creating a package now that we have certification in place for the SLPA to go to their employer and saying, I'm now sort of like Molly said, you know, I may get a stipend. Here's how to sell yourself to your employer and that benefit. So that's going to be one of the things that's going to be happening, that we want to help prepare you with resources to promote yourself.
That would be great. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. I was looking, any other questions?
Ayla, did you have a question? A-I-L-A?
I guess I want to ask, someone just mentioned that your supervisor has to be ASHA certified in order to count your hours. So this is a requirement, right?
Yes, your supervisor must be ASHA certified for the 100 hours. And I think somebody asked a question about, I don't have, my current supervisor isn't ASHA certified, and said something about, my practicum was with somebody. If it's within that 5-year time period, that'll work, okay? And I want to say something too, is that we didn't really talk about this, is right now, say you have an ASHA supervisor, you get ASHA certified, and you know your supervisor changes and they aren't ASHA certified. That does not affect your certification, okay? You are still ASHA certified even if your supervisor changes and they are not holding their seats, because you shouldn't be penalized because you know your school district made a change and changed your supervisor. So don't worry about if that changes in the future. As long as you maintain your certification, you're good.
Someone had asked if we would post the links again, and so I did put those back into the chat. And then when we send out the certificates of attendance, I can include those links in that email too, so we can get those back to you another way. And then I think, Christina, your hand is still up, but I think your question was answered, right? Other things in the chat?
I know that I saw some comments about the like PTAs and quotas and stuff. That was also one of my reasons. It's like PTAs have to have a certificate, quotas have to have a certificate. What, you know, I just want to make myself look like I'm nationally certified too. They can do it, so can we. We go to school, we work, we're professionals too. So my older brother is a physical therapy assistant. He has to take a test too. I said, yeah, I do too. You know, we all do. You know, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, you're absolutely. Thanks, Molly, for bringing that back up, because I had seen that earlier. And the guy asked me yes, when we were developing this whole program, we looked at all the different certification programs for you know, like the quotas and the physical therapy assistants. You know, to get to that point, we have to start somewhere, and this certification is the beginning of it. So we need people to get certified so that the numbers are greater and things like that. But that's definitely been a discussion item.
Did Maria's question get answered? Do the clinical hours need to specify days and times of supervision? For example, on September 21st, I supervised 2 hours, or can the SLP just sign off that they supervised you for the last year or whatever?
Yeah, okay, so the way it works on the application is we try to make it as simple as possible. When you get to that section of the application, the first thing you do is, oh, Jennifer, I wish you had that hand, you know, that, or is how the application looks. is you'll say, who is your supervisor? And you'll put in either their ASHA number or their name. It'll then say, I worked with this supervisor from September 1st to December 31st, and I completed the 100 hours. It's 80 direct, 20 indirect. And this is, I did it at, you know, Rockville Middle School or whatever. And then that's it. We don't ask what your days were. We just say, did you do the 100 hours total? That's all.
Lisa, I'll look for that because I know I've got it here. But we'll kind of keep going with questions. Leah asked, could we revisit the MOCA again for a moment for the 3-year maintenance? So maybe just more detail I think she wants on that.
Sure. Well, I went through a lot of stuff. Hold on a second. I gotta take my jacket off. I have to show off my shirt here, okay? So the MOCA, okay, so instead of professional development, like I had said, 10 hours every 2 years or whatever your state requires, we're trying to do something different, okay? And what it will be is ASHA will assign you, when you are certified, you will get a 3-year maintenance interval that will start on January 1st. And then during year 3, we'll open it up and you'll have a module on your ASHA page and you'll work through it. And it's going to be, like I said earlier, work at your own pace. If you want to, I envision, and don't hold me to this, but maybe 3 hours total. I don't know. We'll have to see when we get everybody in the room and start working on how we want it to be. But it's going to be work at your own pace, start, stop, whatever. And it's not going to be like the national exam. It may have some questions like that, but it's a no pressure situation. If you don't get the question right, we're going to say, well, you didn't get it right. I don't know if you've ever taken first aid online or, you know, the CPR first aid. If you don't get it right, they point you in a different direction to go back and read it again. Well, that's what we anticipate doing. And then you'll work through till you get to, and then you complete it. And we will have a certificate of completion, so you can use that for your professional development for your state, if they would accept that, which we hope they would. And did that kind of answer your questions on that one?
She said, wonderful, thank you. So we're good there.
Yeah, and then I saw, do the 100 hours require a specific number of direct, indirect? I like to think of it as 100 hours. 80 direct, 20 indirect, but you know, most of you, if you're in a practicum, you're doing more than 100 hours total. And if you're working as an SLPA right now, you have well more than 100 hours to put into the application.
Questions? So I've located that handout, Lisa. I'm just trying to get it to my OneDrive so that then I can give you guys the link to it. And again, that's another one that I can send out to you guys, but it's just for pathway 1, but it kind of gives you screenshots of what it looks like step by step when you go through the application process. So.
Right, and the thing is I encourage, if you have even a question that you don't think is significant, please do not hesitate to reach out to us, because we want to answer your questions. We want to make this a transparent process for you so that you understand everything that's required, every single step, and things like that. So, you know, you can't ask a silly question in my book.